anyway, let's move on to the defense. But I want to start off with the defensive line first. So in the defensive tackles, right so far, the two stars have been Ahmad Rowe and Dominique McKinley, and in the rotation has been Sean Washington, Sydir Mitchell, who is 6'6", 345 pounds, and of course Zion Williams has been getting some reps as well, and of course Jacoby Guillory is going to be out for the spring as he's still recovering from an injury. I think it was Achilles. He suffered a Achilles injury he suffered last year, but he'll be back in full force by the time fall camp runs around. Also, what makes the defensive line interesting is the defensive ends. And really, I cannot tell you who's going to be the starter because it's like a rotating, just a rotating door in terms of who's going to be the stars on the defensive ends because there's a lot of them, right? Jack Piber, the transfer from Florida; Patrick Payton, the transfer from Florida State; Jamari Butler, the transfer from Nebraska; Gabe Relaford, sophomore; Karlaj Cobbin, the sophomore for Dutchman; Damian Shanklin has been getting a lot of reps, and I might be missing a player or two more. That's how deep that defensive line is, especially on the edge rushers. Zach, take it away. Talk about the defensive line, man, because one of the biggest concerns with LSU last year was this defensive line, but they actually ended up being one of the better groups on the team, and it seems like they're only going to get better, and most importantly, they have a lot more not only talent, but depth and size.
Yeah, I think Bo Davis did a commendable job last year maxing out what candidly, frankly, wasn't really that talented of a group. So I think, he was kind of squeezing as much blood out of the stone as he could get. This seems like it's a deeper unit, a more talented unit. And, it's easy to say, but talent wins games. And I think Kyle Williams is inheriting a much better situation than what Bo Davis inherited last year. You still have Kevin Peoples coaching the edges and the ends. So it won't be a complete reset of the defensive line like what it first felt like when Bo Davis was leaving. Patrick Payton is one of those, like, if it booms, it's a big boom type of transfer addition for LSU. This could be a Arden Key type of disruptor that the Tigers hadn't had in quite a while. I mean, Caleb on Chason kind of battled some injuries throughout his career. Of course, Harold Perkins, but they're still trying to figure out how do we use Perkins, but like a true I guess let me apologize to BJ Ojolari. BJ Ojolari prior to Arden Key, but so you've been missing that true edge setting, get after type of true defensive ends. So I'm excited to see where Patrick Payton ends up in this scheme because I expect him to be a starter and contribute heavily in 2025.
Yeah, I do too. And like I said, there's a lot of depth, and you never really had any. You really didn't have true edge rushers until last year. Of course, Xavion Jones and Braden Swinson were just causing havoc off the edges. This was really the first time where you saw LSU truly get pressure off the edge on the defensive line, right? Harold Perkins, of course, was out for most of the year last year, and you weren't really sure where to put Harold Perkins because, he looked great his first year, coming off the edge, but you got to remember this, too. Coaches scheme for that now. And also, Harold Perkins is not the biggest guy in the world. Harold Perkins, his listed size is about 6'1", 220. He doesn't look like 220. And he looks skinnier than that. Like, he looks more like a safety. And if you actually look at his PFF grades and coverage, he was one of the better coverage linebackers in the country. So, it's not like you had, what's his name? Khalil Mack, or you had Michael Parsons, who are both 6'4", 235, 240-pound demons. You had Harold Perkins, who is an undersized linebacker, right? A very talented linebacker, but undersized. And I think it's very important for LSU that you brought in a lot of veteran edge rushers because not only you have a lot of young guys coming back who are very talented themselves. Garrett Rutherford will be a dog. LSU, he's a dog. But you need to bring in veteran guys who with a high production to come help out, because that's something you need when you have got like versatile guys like Harold Perkins and Will Weeks. You also need to bring in guys who can cause havoc on the edge, and then also, of course, on the interior. Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley are both back, and also a common theme among the defensive line, which you see among the defense as well. A lot of second year guys are stepping up. So it's very important that these guys get developed, and bringing in veterans like Jack Piber and Patrick Payne and Jamari Butler will help in the near future. So those guys know what it takes to know what it takes at this level when their time will come. And it could easily come this year because injuries happen. But Zach, let's move on to the linebackers. Of course, Terrell Perkins and Whit Weeks are both out for the spring. They're dealing with injuries. But from what it looks like, the stars of linebacker will be Devon Keys, Wes Weeks, and Whit Weeks. Harold Perkins will move to the star. That's a given. Blake Baker's already said it. So will be moving to the star. But then you also have Talon Singleton also made some plays. And then Charles Ross, the number one linebacker in the country last year, will probably get some. Is beginning a lot of reps as well. But speaking of the linebackers, and let's just talk about Harold Perkins moving to the star. What do you think about that?
I mean, we've been kind of moving Perkins all over for 3 years now, but this finally seems to be the place that he's meant to be all along. I get that Harold Perkins wanted to be an off-ball linebacker. I have lots of wants and dreams as well, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. And Perkins being charitably listed at 225, he's not going to be Patrick Queen. He's not going to be Devin White. He's just not. But he can be very good and is very good. We saw him make an interception, flipping his hips 2 years ago against Missouri. That changed the game up in Columbia. He's got really good ball skills, and let him. The best thing about him was also the worst thing about him. That November of 2023 as a freshman, when he emerged and came on the scene. Well, guess what? Coaches are paid to watch film and go, okay, what does he do? Okay, let's just take away what he's good at. And they kind of figured him out. But I think Blake Baker is finally letting him be someone who can wreak havoc and just get after people. And you're not tipping your hand by having Harold Perkins set up at the edge. Oh, I wonder what he's going to do. Oh, he's going to run. No way. I'm so shocked. But if you let him be in that kind of off, and he can turn his hips and run, he can cover, he can get into the flats, he can do a whole bunch of more different things. He's a queen on the chessboard, and that's what he needs to be doing. He needs to give them, okay, where is 7? Where's he at? They need to look for him, and not just, oh, he's at the edge again. Okay, we'll just throw a big tackle at him because he can't get off the wash.
Yeah, I think I like to move the star too. That's something that I've said even last year, where you probably have to move Harold Perkins to the star. He's too small to be coming off the edge, and he really doesn't. And also he doesn't really have the instincts like your stereotypical linebacker. What people think Harold Perkins is what Whit Weeks is, right? And I think that when Harold Perkins got hurt, it allowed the coaching staff to just focus in on everybody else. And it also allowed Whit Weeks to be Whit Weeks. I felt like when they're trying so hard to figure out the whole Harold Perkins situation, that I also felt like they forgot about everybody else. And so now I think you already know who you guys are, what the team is, and what the skill set is. But also, okay, let's put Harold Perkins a star because he is most fit to be at that spot. You desperately needed speed at that spot because you didn't really have that with Major Burns. And also, Major Burns wasn't great in coverage. Harold Perkins actually might be better in coverage than Major Burns. Major Burns was a safety. That was his job, was to cover. So moving a guy like Harold Perkins where you can do a lot of things with him out on at star. You can blitz him off the edge. You can keep him pass coverage. There's a lot of things you can do with him when he's a star. So I think that's the best thing for him. It'll be very interesting, though. However, where do NFL scouts look at Harold Perkins? I think that will be very interesting as well. Do they look at him more as a linebacker, or they look at him more as a safety? And that will tell you, because of course they're going to want to put Harold Perkins where he can succeed, and then also how it helps the team. But you also got to think about what are NFL scouts saying. I think that will determine, all three of those things will determine where they will use Harold Perkins the most. And then I think especially during important games, because important games I want to see what they're going to do with Harold Perkins. But I'll say this: the game against A&M, Florida, Alabama, where they had running quarterbacks, having a guy like Harold Perkins up there, you need him, because not only was he fast enough to tackle those guys, he was physical, right? He's a lot more physical than Major Burns. So I think you missed having a guy like that out there, especially against Alabama.